Hey, everybody. So check this out. At 3:30 p.m. Eastern today, Ellie and I went live to talk about how to turn your problems into opportunities. And it just so
hmm
happens that, well, we encountered some problems and some and some pretty darn big ones at that. Somehow the stream got frozen and we just spent basically the past hour trying to figure it out. And I think we're back online. So if you guys are watching this and they see this, please pop down into the box below to the chat box and say, yes, I can see you. Yes, I can hear you. That'd be really, really awesome. And so guys, welcome, Move, Think, Smile, and all you rock stars in the fatigue free professional. What we're talking about today is how to turn problems into opportunities. And this is probably the most important show that we've done to date. And what it comes down to, Ellie, is when you set massive goals, like doing a live stream for 40 minutes inside of a really, really cool Facebook group that's closed off for people dealing with fatigue, exhaustion, and burnout and want to have a badass life, right? When you set
Yep.
really massive goals, you're going to hit massive problems no matter
Yep.
what the goal is.
Yeah.
And your goal could be something as simple as, I just want to have a successful life in the free time and energy to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Or it could be, I just want to wake up one morning feeling excited and motivated for the day. Or it could be, those goals are bigger than you think they are. And a
Yeah.
lot of people think that you've got to sacrifice stuff in order to hit those goals. So we're going to talk about the giant obstacle that we just ran into, the chaos that ensued for the past 60 minutes, and how you can really turn these problems into opportunities. And it's the same three steps that we teach our clients. And success really means your ability to conquer obstacles when they appear without melting down, right, Elia?
Yeah. Or without getting derailed for weeks on end or spending a sleepless night, all of that stuff.
Right. Because our temptation when obstacles come up, right? When problems and chaos ensues is it's to run and hide. It's to maybe, yeah, just avoid the problem,
Yeah.
pretend.
Or sometimes, like we were saying before, you just like dive right into the problem, but you like hit it with so much force. It's
Hmm.
like you're just trying to run over it and pretend like it doesn't even exist.
Yep.
And that gets you into trouble too.
Because the truth is, guys, when you set out with a big goal, you never know what's going to happen. And especially if you're in a career, if you've got a business, I mean, if you're in a career, you're going to have a difficult boss. There's going to be days like that. You're going to have colleagues who, what's the nice way to put this, are not quite pulling their weight and are kind of abusing the system. You're going to
Yeah.
have that. And if you've owned your own business, if you're one of the business owners that are in the group, you're going to have employees that just aren't
Ex-
doing the stuff they need to be doing. You're going to
Yep.
have, you're going to have the IRS that wants to take a look at your books, or the township to come and talk to you about your business license, or all this other stuff. Or all of a sudden the rental company that you're leasing property from has a triple cam allowance, and now they want to charge you $5,000 because they decided to do landscaping outside without your approval. just, just, just,
Yep.
just ridiculous stuff pops up all the time. Even if you're a parent, you know, your kids come home late. They come home with interesting clothes on, or they come home with, a new piercing or a new tattoo, which is what I got to experience. I guess I kind of deserve that. Um, because the truth is you just never know what's going to happen. And I think we need to talk why this is important real quick before we get into the three steps, because that's what we're going to share with you guys today are the three things that we teach our clients on how to conquer obstacles fast and how to embrace them, right? And how to make some incredible things happen. Elio, what are your 2 cents on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so, so key, especially again when you're struggling with the fatigue and feeling like you're battling burnout. I mean, you're at your wit's end, basically. And what's so important to understand, though, is that for a lot of you, you've probably settled and you sort of feel like, well, this is just how my life is. Or, again, your primary thought is just, are you kidding me? Again, this problem? And you really, we're going to talk about later. I mean, what you're telling yourself all the time and the mindset you have really does affect the problem and how many problems come to you.
I want to argue with that. I don't think that's the question they're asking all the time. I think they're actually asking, are you effing kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
left
that's the
that one
question
part
that's
out.
yeah, I think that's the question that's going through a lot of people's heads. Because the truth is, guys, the bigger the goals you set, the bigger the obstacles you're going to have to conquer to get there. And that is probably one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell you the number of times that little stuff would just take me down. Big problems would ruin my month. A small problem would ruin my day, sometimes
Yeah.
days, sometimes a week, you know, and the stories that we make up in our head about what's going on or why this problem is happening it's crazy. I wish I could just have a journal of the stories of just even in my own head, let alone other people that I know, of when they encounter problems. They're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And they start freaking out and then you start melting down. And guys, if you don't learn this, that's what's going to happen. And a lot of you dealing with fatigue
Yeah.
have experienced just this. And we're here to tell you it's not your fault. You know, society has taught us a lot of wrong ways to deal with problems, a lot of wrong things to do with stuff. But the key to, to having big challenges is, think of it like this. If you want to be the heavyweight champion of the world, you're going to get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've got to know that's coming. You've got to accept that if you want to achieve something great in your life, if you want to have a super successful career and the free time and the energy to actually enjoy that free time and enjoy your success, without the wheels falling off of your life or your career or your family, you've got to learn these 3 steps.
So key because, it's like if you want to build muscle, if you want to build resourcefulness and build an unstoppable, mindset and business and life, you have to embrace those obstacles as an opportunity to get stronger. And what's crazy is, we do this on purpose when we go to the gym and we pick up those weights and we create all this resistance and we create all this stuff that we have to push through and things we have to come up against in the gym. And that's what makes us stronger. But we don't transfer that same mindset into our daily problems, which, again, could really serve us.
And guys, I just want to let you know, I'm sitting here live with the founding partner of Move Think Smile, Elia Fasharon, and I'm Adam Von Inns, and I'm the co-founder. And if you guys are with us today, please pop down in the chat box. Just let us know you can hear us, you can see us, everything's coming through. Because we had some pretty big problems the last time we tried to do this about an hour and a half ago. And I apologize for you guys we had a lot of people dialed in, we had a lot of people watching, and it just went zap. And we didn't even know until we were done. And so let's make this happen. Let's make some really cool things happen. So guys, one of the things that is, what we do and it has to do with your career and your life at home, right? And we tell people this all the time. We can make things as simple as possible for you, and we can eliminate a lot of the wasted effort and shorten the learning curve and when people come to work with us. And we could do some things that will really make a huge difference to your energy, to the success that you're having, taking your career to the next level. And we can simplify the process of getting to where you want to go with your energy, getting rid of that exhaustion, getting rid of that fatigue, getting rid of needing, pots of coffee to drag yourself through the day, or the sodas or the sugar or that other kind of stuff, right? Why we can make it simple. No one can make it easy.
Yeah.
It's never going to be easy. And that's why this problem solving technique, turning problems into opportunities, is so critical. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So you've got to be able to prepare for what's going on. And that means you're going to have massive challenges along the way. And, one of the questions that we get asked all the time, it's like, okay, well, Adam and Ellie, if it's been done already, why is it not easy? I mean, if somebody else has already done it, and how come it's not easy? And that's because, well, you haven't done it already, right? I mean, we hear stuff all the time. I mean, it can go from, this diet is working great for this guy. Look at this guy over here. He lost, 150 pounds. Or look at this guy over here. Look at this woman over here. She did this. She did this. She did this. They all have these big stories. And what ends up happening is most of us let ourselves be crushed by the problem or be held back by the obstacle, or we start coming up on some chaos and it just literally breaks us in half.
We start doubting ourselves. And again, how we're approaching, obstacles in our life. I mean, it tells us a lot about where your thinking is, right?
Yeah.
And where you're at with everything. And again, it's like, if you don't have somebody on your team, on your side, who has been there and done that and can really help you through it and give you a helping hand, it gets really, really difficult. And you
Yes.
can give up on your goals and on your dreams to get your energy back really quickly. You can just be like, well, it doesn't work for me. Well, it's not going to do this.
Right.
It's not going to do
Well,
that.
that's because the challenges that people run into are unique to them. It's
Yeah.
never the same. It's never the same, where there's so many factors in there. It could be how much sleep you got last night. It could be just, are you battling, I don't know, a flu bug or a cold bug? Or maybe you've got some crazy stuff going on at home, and it could be the exact same problem for somebody, but because you've got different things going on, the problem is unique for you.
Yeah.
So no two people experience the same problem in the same way. It's kind of like a bolt of lightning. It never strikes the same way, the same place twice, right? So, and when people take on obstacles and problems and challenges and chaos comes up, you're going to run into, some of the biggest things out there. And one of my good friends actually says this, and he's like, right before people are about to succeed, they self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the biggest things we see is people actually self-sabotaging right before they're about to be successful. They literally just destroy it, or they give up. And guys, it's really important. Or, other things come up, like your wife or your husband are telling you that they don't believe in you. Right. Or that they say what's happening is like, I don't know if that's really a good idea, or I don't know if this is really a good way to tackle this, or I don't know if we should spend that money, or I don't know if we should, there's just so much focus on external stuff and not looking at actually, the opportunity that lies right at your feet, acres of diamonds underneath your feet, like Earl Nightingale used to say.
And the other thing too is just the ability to keep going forward and to keep trying when you feel like, well, I tried it this many times, so it must not work for me. Again, kind of going back to that idea, it's like you realize a lot of people who are really good at what they do, it's not because necessarily they have, a lot of them don't have necessarily just this incredible talent that just came to them. It's because they know how to continue to sharpen their sword, as you could say, right? Was that Stephen Covey that said that? Just really continually understanding that these obstacles that are coming into your life are actually there to make you better, not take you down.
Right. And then, things that also make it really hard is like, you can't get out of the brain fog, right? Mm-hmm. That right there is going to make problems just that much worse. And you're probably never going to be able to solve it because you just can't figure it out. And it doesn't matter what diet you go on, you can't lose the extra weight. You've got to drag yourself through the day, like I said, with energy drinks or pots of coffee, all these things that can happen that you never know about. And that's why it's so important to learn how to turn problems into opportunities, because it's unique for everybody and it's different. And so what you've got to do is what we like to call is you got to put on a mental motorcycle jacket, right? You've got to learn how to say no to the garbage so you can start enjoying more of what's good. And saying no to the garbage doesn't mean necessarily avoiding the problem, right? It means tackling it, right? It means don't let it take you down and don't dwell there.
That mindset piece, the mental motorcycle jacket, is so key. And so many people are used to just forcing, pushing, doing. I'm just going to use and imply as much force, physical force, to get things done, with my willpower, but they're not bringing their mindset along with them. And that's a huge cost and makes you exhausted. Yeah.
And you can't anticipate everything. But, when you work with a company like Move, Think, Smile, I mean, seriously, we've helped so many clients overcome fatigue and exhaustion and burnout syndrome, and seriously execute a really fantastic career model that dramatically boosts their success. I mean, that's what it does. And we've pretty much seen already everything out there. I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about our history, but yeah, we were in the depths of fatigue and exhaustion and burnout, probably the worst that I've ever seen. I mean, I watched Elliot actually black out at our old business, like just standing there, just boom, blocked up, hit her head on the concrete, and she was done. I thought she was done for good, but luckily she bounced out of that one. But it was a long recovery. It was a really long recovery. And for her, it was, a lot of just extreme exhaustion. Couldn't carry a cup of water to the couch, shaking all the time. For me, I was a mix. I was a burnout syndrome. Syndrome means a mix of stuff. And I had all kinds of things going on. And guys, and when a problem would appear, I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't. And it just made things worse.
Yeah, and that's such an important thing to bring up because, again, for a lot of you struggling, with fatigue, it's like think about your energy like a bank account. And most of you are operating
Yeah.
in an energetic debt. You are operating from energy you actually don't really have. You're borrowing it from coffee, you're borrowing it from sugar, you're borrowing it from sheer willpower. But, then an obstacle comes along or a problem comes along, and it's almost like you're just so easily tippable because you just don't have enough energy and enough kind of strength to be able to hit that obstacle with the right mindset. So you just kind of topple over.
Yeah. So that's the value of having that mental armor, right? And, because when those things happen, you've got to be able to deal with it. You got to be able to push through it, and you be able to start kicking ass in your life, kicking ass in your career. And that really brings us to the first principle, Elia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that first principle is, number one, you've got to take extreme there it is. You got to take extreme ownership. And this is really, really well illustrated. Some mentors of ours have been talking about this. And, and if you haven't read it yet, get out there and actually read the book by Jocko Williams and Leif Bobbin, Extreme Ownership. These two military guys basically just seek out problems, and it's absolutely amazing what they're doing. And it talks about lessons that they've learned in the battlefield. And, and it's like the biggest lesson we talk about here at Move Think Smile, and all the time is like, you've got to take ownership of the problem. And what that means really is when a problem happens, you've got one of two choices, right, Elia?
Yeah. Again, a lot of times people either just run away, right? Hide, blame. It's not my problem.
Yeah. You're saying the problem exists because of something outside of you. That's that's your first option. Or number two, you can take ownership of it.
Claim it.
You can just claim it. Mm-hmm. And you can claim that something that you did somehow, some way, whatever it might be, is the reason this problem is happening. And I would say most of us in working more than 40 hours a week do not do that. When a problem comes up, we immediately want to avoid it. Mm-hmm. We want to run away from it. We want to hide from it. Or we just want to deal with it on the spot. Say, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
It's not my problem.
And I think, kind of as I was saying before, I think the real danger is when someone has done something that's, messed something up, or maybe they said something to you that really got you off kilter, or they didn't pull their weight at work, or, what someone else has done is absolutely true. It wasn't right. It wasn't, they weren't bringing their best. But that's where you get in a trap because, I think as Brene Brown says, you hold on to that thing of like, well, they're wrong, I'm right, and they should, blah, 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 blah. And sometimes that's the worst, right? Because you feel justified in being right and saying it's not part of your problem. Right. But we have to really understand that puts you, again, with no power, and you're giving all your energy away. So again, if you can just claim that ownership of what part did I play in this, you're going to get all your energy back. You're going to get solutions back, because you're co-creating with everyone around you.
Yeah. If you don't immediately take ownership of the problem, it does. It like Ellie says, it takes away your power. And then you end up sitting there like a fool waiting for something else to come in and save the day. And something else never comes in and saves the day. Never comes in and saves the day. And a lot of people will just say, well, that problem is just going to exist. So I'm just going to stay here in my uncomfortable zone. Because it's not my problem. And so they play it safe and just nothing happens. And guys, let's say you haven't adopted this value of extreme ownership, you're just wasting time and energy. Mm-hmm. And this is step number one. If you don't take ownership of what's going on to you, if you don't take ownership of your health, if you don't take ownership of your energy, right? And you seek a way to fix it, it's never going to get better.
Yeah, because no one, right? As we said, no one's gonna stand up for you.
And it does.
People will continue to ask you to do things as you keep saying yes. No one is gonna stand up for you like you need to stand up for you, and that is a part of claiming that ownership of your health.
And the first problem you've got to look at is, am I tired? Yes. Am I fatigued? Okay. Am I exhausted? Maybe not, but I'm tired and fatigued. Is burnout chasing me down? Mm-hmm. Those are problems.
And they don't get better.
No, they don't get better. They don't get better on their own.
You don't do anything.
And the only way they're going to get better is if you take ownership of that problem. That's the first thing that you've got to do. And guys, all the stuff that we're teaching you is not going to help you avoid problems, okay? You need to understand that. This is about how to deal with problems, even if you're feeling like you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You need to fix them as fast as you can and stop wasting your energy and stop wasting your time, stop wasting your life. And if you do that, you'll get through the problem much faster. You'll get over that obstacle, over that wall, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is, when things are going right, what do people want to do, Elia?
Yeah, everybody wants the credit.
Everybody wants to take credit for it. But when things are going wrong, nobody wants to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And I just want to make it clear to everybody on here that whenever there's a problem, it's always Elia's fault.
Yes, it is always. I'm always like, up.
Yeah. In fact, she ruins Thanksgiving for the entire country every year.
Yep. It's a big running joke we've got. Yeah.
I'm kidding. I mean, I'm kind of kidding, but it's funny. It's like in our previous businesses, before we dove into, Move Think Smile, 5-6 years ago, when a problem would come up, the first thing I would do is I would blame someone down the line in our company. Mm-hmm. I would blame the accountant, or I would blame the customer, or I would blame the technology, or I would blame, our internet provider, or I'd blame the website. I blamed everything else, and I just did not take the ownership. And that is what threw us to the ground. And so, guys, that's number one, right? So we've just talked about extreme ownership, Elia, and don't play the blame game.
Yeah.
So step number two is?
Step number two is where you're really you're touching the problem. You're going in, tapping it, getting some data about the problem. We call it tagging the problem.
Yeah. And you've got to identify exactly what needs to change. You got to identify exactly what's not working. So once you take ownership, you've got to get in and figure this out. And it can be tricky. And it can be really tricky because doing this does not feel good, does it?
Yeah.
Because it reveals. So let's say you're a business owner, or let's say you're in sales, or you're in charge of a business unit, right? And all of a sudden your sales are down. Or there's a problem with your technology, and all of a sudden your live stream doesn't work, right? Like we had a little while ago. Or there's a problem with, you can't get going in the morning because you're just tired when you wake up. You're more tired than when you woke up, than when you went to bed the night before. And, and you're drinking a venti mocha, but that's not even working. And you're still just got brain fog, and you just don't know what to do. So what you got to do is you got to take a deep dive into the data just to see what's going on. Now, first of all, you have to have enough expertise to actually understand that data, right, Elia?
You do. And expertise, but also an objective eye, right? To just like a scientist, really just kind of looking at the data. And this is the tough part, because most people can't really look objectively at the problems in their life, the obstacles, because a lot of times there's a lot of emotion wrapped up into it. We think like what this problem means about us.
Right.
We reflect on that, and it is really difficult without someone to help you kind of see the bigger picture, to really understand the data.
Yeah,
and to not get stuck in, why me? Why does this always happen? And just really bearing down so hard on the problem that it swallows you whole.
Right. So what Ellie is saying is the trick is, it's not very comfortable. She's saying, one, don't dwell on the problem. She's saying, touch the problem just enough to get the data. And like with our clients, it's like they come to us and they're exhausted, they're tired, they're burning out, right? And they know it. And they know that their strategy, the way that they're living, isn't working.
Yeah.
But they have no idea how to identify the problem in the first place. They can't even figure out what's not working, why they're tired. They don't get it. They think it's this over here. Like, I didn't sleep as much as I should have last night. Or sometimes it's, I slept really well, but I don't understand why I'm tired. And they don't even understand how to identify the problem, get the data, and then analyze it so they can identify exactly what needs to change.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're working, let's say you're working with Move Think Smile. I mean, we see these energy drains all the time, don't we, Elia?
We do. And it's, again, like being able to really put your finger on it. And a lot of times, there's so much going on. There's such a whirlwind. We get a lot of people who it's like, my business is, there's so much going on over here and parts are falling apart. And then my family life is kind of falling apart. And it's just this massive whirlwind. And they feel like they have 100 million problems to fix. And, for us, a lot of times it's like we come in and say, just fix this one thing. And that's going to fix everything else.
Right.
Right. But a lot of people don't know which one to start with or how to even, tackle this whole thing. And so again, that's where having that outside kind of reflection is so key. It really makes the process 1,000 times shorter.
Well, the reason Ellie is saying this is because, going in and looking at the data does not feel good because it makes you be honest with yourself. And it feels kind of gross, and it feels kind of like a letdown, and it feels kind of like failure. But this is the key here, is being able to go and objectively, as Ellie said, look at that data, analyze it, and with an expert eye, and really understand what is causing me to not perform at my best.
And that's exactly like when I look back on my experience. Yeah, I tried to solve this on my own for a long time and got nowhere. And landed in the doctor's office, and it took the doctor to kind of say, hey, look at this data, right? For me to really see it. And,
it just doesn't feel good. It's like going to the doctors and having them tell you, well, you've got this problem. This is what's really going on. And you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew I could have avoided that, right? Or
even like we were saying too, like you do your taxes or your budget and you're like, I spent how much, what, where, when, you're like, oh my God, look at this data. Like, when did that happen?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, this is the part of the process that can really be difficult, and as like Elliot said, is, what we want you to do is not dwell there.
Yeah.
You've got a problem, take ownership of it, get in, find out what the data is, and exactly what needs to change, what needs to be fixed. Just touch the problem, just tag the problem long enough. Right. And because I remember I would spend days freaking out and trying to fix things. And when you figure out what needs to change and fix it, you write it down, you make the process, you document it. And that's something that we've done really well at Move Think Smile. It's like, that's why we can honestly say we've seen just about everything out there. And, and we've learned how to fix those things, especially when it comes to your energy, right? Living life and thriving at work, thriving at home, thriving in your life, and just enjoying life, right? And that brings us to our third point. And the third point is you've got to create a badass identity.
Yes.
And this is basically all about the right way to deal with problems. And if you think about those guys, those Navy SEALs, running into the battlefields when they hear gunshots, right? It's like they seek out chaos. They seek out problems. And that's kind of like one of the 4 types out there of people who, and how they deal with stuff. I think the majority of people, they would rather just avoid the problems at all cost. Right.
Yeah. I mean, and the identity piece is so big because, those guys have identified so much. It's so much in their bones that's just like their knee-jerk reaction to what they do. Right. And so a lot of people, who are struggling with fatigue and burnout, their identity, what they've been telling themselves for so long is like, things just don't work out for me. I just don't have the energy. I never will. This is just how things are.
Right.
And constantly just telling yourself like, just push through. It's just how it is, and it's just like, that's your identity. And no wonder you're stuck in the mud. Right.
Right. So most people, you've got the people out there who will just like, they hear gunshots, they run into the battlefield, they seek out the chaos, they seek out the problem. But most people spend a lot of time minimizing chaos. And the trade-off is now they're playing it safe. And playing it safe seems like a good idea, but it usually causes a lot of sacrifice with your health. It really does. It just mental turmoil going on, anxiety, anger, frustration, a little bit of pissed off going on in there. And then you have, then you have guys who I guess kind of like me, who like to set these big goals, and I aggressively go after these big goals, but I still want to avoid problems. Right? I want to minimize the chaos as much as I can. right? You got that, got the guys going after it. You got the people who avoid it all together. And then you have the person actively creating chaos, actively creating problems, actively stirring the pot, right? Sticking your finger in the wound. And there are certain presidents that like to do that, right? That you might be very familiar with, or some very famous heavyweight champions, fighters, MFA fighters are really well known for doing this. Conor McGregor, really well known for basically creating such a chaotic environment, right? Because he feels comfortable. He lives with uncertainty. And he knows that most people don't do well with uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's how he tears his opponents down, you know, and it's a psychological game, but man, it is a big one. And you've got to be able to, you know, if you're someone who is uncomfortable with uncertainty and you go up against with somebody who is comfortable with it, you're at a major disadvantage because you're not comfortable living there.
Well, even, I mean, life has become, I mean, there was always that uncertainty, right? But we are living in, you know, again, these times where everything is changing so quickly and there isn't any certainty. I mean, we can feel like we have it, right? We can sort of pseudo feel like we have it. But again, not even going up against someone, but just the fact that life is so uncertain. And if you don't have this skill to be able to really feel like I have the identity of a problem solver, or I have the identity of someone who can get through A, B, C, D, E, you know, you are going to constantly just get your ass kicked by life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
You're just going to constantly get punched in the face.
So getting punched in the face is kind of part of the game. But you can definitely diminish the pain very, very fast. And it goes beyond being comfortable with risk. You've got to embrace what we'd like to say, the suck. You've got to learn how to embrace the suck and turn it into success very fast. And your identity is a person who becomes a problem solver. You've got to build your identity around becoming that problem solver, or what we call a badass identity. You have to get in there where the problems appear. Don't get addicted to them. You come up with identity for yourself, how to deal with the problems, and step into that in a really powerful way. And it's coming from that place of, you know, like, I just want to solve this problem because I know it's going to be an opportunity. And guys, this is how you really turn the problem into the opportunity. You take ownership of it. You identify exactly what's not working. You touch it just enough so you don't live there and you don't have a meltdown and are freaking out and breaking apart. And you create this badass identity to get out there and fix it. And two ways to really, you know, two beliefs to really get that going, you know, and that's really helped us, you know, these beliefs that we've adopted. And that is number one, there is no problem. There are no problems. There are only opportunities. And when you ID an opportunity, it shortcuts the problem. It kills the problem. It kills the challenge. It kills everything. It turns into an opportunity. And you get out there, you get the data, and you fix it really, really fast.
And we understand it can be tough to look at that problem and say, oh, this is an opportunity. Because at that moment, it just feels like, again, it doesn't feel like an opportunity. Right. But this is something that you have to cultivate, something you have to understand how to approach, or again, it will take you down. You'll spend months, years, you know, ruminating, stuck on certain problems. And like for some of you, you know, you've probably been fatigued for a long, long time. And each year the fatigue is just kind of multiplying, right? It's gaining momentum. It's getting more and more each year. You're just starting to notice how it's affecting your physical health, how it's affecting your relationships, your ability to have, you know, good connections with the people around you, and just having fun because, well, you never have the energy to. Yeah.
And the second belief that we've adopted is, you know, Ellie and I are healthy. We're energetic. We've got a lot of great success. And it's because we solve problems that other people can't, right? Especially when it comes to people's energy. We solve problems that even doctors can't figure out for most people. And the bigger problems you are willing to solve, the more success, the more energy, the more health, the more wealth you will have.
Yeah. So what that means for you guys, it's like if you have this, you know, I just spoke to a woman the other day who's just really struggling. You know, ever since someone in her family passed away, she had, you know, gained a substantial amount of weight. And, you know, again, she just felt like everything was just too much, too heavy for her. And it's like her willingness to take that problem on, if she was willing to do that and get through that, oh my gosh, what could open up in her life.
Right.
Right.
I mean, yeah, even if you're someone who doesn't like a lot of uncertainty, right? Even someone who does not like to get out of their comfort zone, if you just get curious, right? Just get curious, like, okay, this is a problem, but inside lies the seed of an opportunity.
Yep. And what is it? Where can I find it?
Right. And the more that you can adapt that mindset, the more success and energy you're going to have. And yes, it's tough to do in a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when that problem rears its head, this is what we're talking about. It's like, yeah, everybody talks about turning problems into opportunities, but it's really tough to do sometimes. Yep. Especially when you're emotionally tied to whatever's happening, right? Or whatever that challenge is, or the potential disaster that's looming around the corner, but you've got to be able to learn how to switch gears from the sky is falling to what opportunity is there.
Yeah.
And at Sun Tzu in The Art of War has a really great quote. And he says, don't count on the enemy not coming after you. You can only count on being ready when they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can only count on being ready when they do. And if you don't have the energy that you want, if you're not feeling totally badass right now and you've got some fatigue, some exhaustion, or some burnout chasing around down in there, guys, one of the biggest shortcuts to solving your problems is to work with people who know how, no matter what your problems are having, right? Because we know fatigue, very modern health science and research studies are showing fatigue is the direct link to more than 100 chronic health diseases, including the mental stuff like anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
It starts with fatigue. It's not the other way around.
Running ourselves ragged.
Yeah. And I want you to ask yourself, if you could snap your finger right now and make that problem go away, what is that problem? When you know what that problem is, I want to invite you to come over to movethinksmile.com/talk and, basically book a call with us. And, when you know what that problem is and that problem that might be causing your fatigue, or you don't even know, and you just want to get your energy back. And if you wish you could just snap your fingers and make it go away, go to movethinksmile.com/talk and book a free call with us. And let's chat about that. We're going to get deep down. We're going to, all you got to do is take ownership of the problem. And then we can help you really get in there, analyze the data, take a look at what's not working and eliminate it. Eliminate the fatigue, get your energy back, get your life firing on all cylinders again really fast. We're really good at it. We have had great success with our clients. If you don't believe me, you can watch the interviews down below that we've done several times in this group. And, if you're listening to this on our podcast or on our YouTube channel, please come over to the Fatigue Free Professional in Facebook. Just look it up, the Fatigue Free Professional, or you can look up Move Think Smile. We're there too. And Elliot, do you have any other parting shots?
I was just going to say, it's just so important to bring and utilize these tools, because otherwise, again, for you guys leading teams, owning businesses, you just get inundated with problem after problem after problem, because you're one of the head people, and it's like people have a problem, so they come to you, and your life can get really out of whack when it just feels like it's always problems, and nothing ever good, right? So again, it's like you have an abundance of problems. So how can you switch that around? How can you change your mindset around it so that, again, you're coming from a powerful place where you have energy versus just feeling like, oh, another thing to just suck my vitality away, another thing to make me just feel like, why even try anymore?
Right.
Guys, what's the point?
And I just saw a bunch of people just joined on to watch us, and we're actually at the end of this. And if you didn't catch it at the beginning, we'll end here. You guys can go right back to the beginning. You can watch it from the start. Facebook will kind of re-loop that for you. But what had happened is we actually came on at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time to do our show, what we consider one of the most important shows ever on how to turn problems into opportunities. And then we had some big problems. And we just talked about how to solve them. So guys, if you're dealing with this stuff, you've got a problem, you've got some fatigue, you've got some energy problems that you wish you could just snap your fingers would go away, please come over to movethinksmile.com/talk, and we'll get crystal clear what's going on. There's no charge for the call. And until then, we'll see you guys later this week when we do our next live. Right, Elio?
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Take care, guys.